Okay, we are recording. I'll just do a quick introduction of who I am, and then we'll jump right into the demo so that you know why I'm here on this call. My name is Amy Tessitore, and I'm the Senior Manager of Adoption and Education Services for OpenLMS. And what my team does is help clients to right fit the LMS for them. So making sure that you're making the best use of the tools in there to meet your objectives. And so we typically, when there needs to be a demo of like a new version of the software, my team will handle that demo since you're already clients, and we can kind of show you how the update affects you in your specific use case. So where we are right now is on the share screen is we are on your current site, one of your current sites. We are on the Conservation Learning Campus site, and we are landing on site home. If that share screen area is very small to you, if you just double click on the area where you see the share screen, it'll make it a little bit larger. I do try to zoom in a little too to help us there. All right. So this is what it currently looks like when someone lands on home. Then, of course, you have the My Courses tab here, which takes them over to which is actually their dashboard and has the recently accessed courses block. Now, one of the things I was just mentioning was how different Moodle 4.0 looks. So we're going to pop over here to my training site. And what you're going to see here is this is what site home looks like on this particular site. On our site home, we have the My Courses block and we have the course categories, but whatever you have on your site home would show up here. And probably the first thing you're going to notice is just we have a lot more space for the main content. In terms of dashboard, this is what the dashboard looks like on my site where I have the timeline block. And the timeline block is right here. The timeline block shows people everything they have upcoming and due in a course they're enrolled in if that activity has a set due date for them. They also can see the calendar here. And on my calendar, what I'm able to see are things that are in different courses, but I can also see holidays because I've chosen to put some of those here on this calendar. And they are there. I can filter my calendar by courses, seeing all courses or just some of the courses that I'm in. And I can add new events for myself as well. But if I'm an admin, I can add site wide events. So if there are things that we want people to know about, we can let them know through the calendar. Now, your dashboard is currently pointing people to the dashboard where your My Courses link is currently pointing people to the dashboard, where what they're seeing is that the course overview block. In 4.0, we actually have a separate My Courses tab here where people can land. And when they do, they are getting only that course overview block. So, very similar to what you have over here for My Courses. And what they see is only the courses they're enrolled in. The courses right now are in card format. We can also put them in list format. They would look like this. And summary format, which I actually don't recommend because what that brings in is the name of the course as well as the full summary that's written in course summary. And as you can see, sometimes those can be quite lengthy. And then it's just not as great of an experience. But I like both list and card. And what you're seeing on this particular site is just the boost theme, which is what you have. So this is the standard theme here. We've applied a theme preset. We have two of them available. We can absolutely, if we spin up a dev site for you, we can absolutely apply these presets on there so you can see what they look like. The presets do things like expand this content out so we have less white space along the sides, and it makes these course cards look nice. One of the things I notice is that on your site, you tend to use assignments, forums, pages, and quizzes quite a bit. And we have all of those still available in here. I'm going to come into a course now and show you what this looks like. So this course here is my computer applications course. And the big change in 4.0 is the focus on the content so that our block drawer is hidden, what was once called our nav drawer, but is now called the course index. Those are stowed away. And when they are, content is the focus. So it's much easier to see what's happening in the course and to stay focused on what we need to do. We've had a couple of changes to things here at the course level. So for example, you might notice that my icons for activities look a bit different. And that is because all of the activity icons were updated, and there's also a color coding system behind that. Let's take a look at that. I'm going to turn editing on in this course, and that has also changed. Editing is now in the upper right-hand corner, and it's a toggle switch. So if I switch that on, there we go. I'm going to close this drawer. We're doing a little work at how do we keep that drawer always open. My preference is that I like to keep that drawer closed, which is why I keep closing it. But let's talk about what we see here. So we are here in our editing mode, and we know that we're in editing mode in part because we can see that it's toggled on at the top, but also because the little pencil mark appears here. One thing you'll notice is we don't have those little crosshairs all over the place. We don't need them. If we hover over anything, we can see that we can easily click, drag, and reorder things however we would like them to be ordered. And I can put that back if I'd like to. When it comes, go ahead.
As a student, or is this you as
This is
an
me as a
administrator?
teacher right now.
Okay.
As an administrator or teacher. Students won't have the ability to edit anything inside the course, so they can't change the way things look. The one thing that a student type user, or really any user, can do is they can customize their own personal dashboard so that it lays out the way they want, but that's the only thing that someone with a student role would be able to change on the site. A couple of things that we see here. We see the activity title, the type of activity. It's got its little icon. And all the way over here to, I'm going to zoom in a bit more. To the right, we see that our activity completion criterion is spelled out here for people. So I can see that on this quiz, what I have to do is make at least one attempt. For this feedback, I have to submit it. But for this file, I only have to view. And for this forum, I have to make 3 posts. This is extremely helpful for our users. When they come to the course page now, not only do they see what they have to complete, they see the criteria for completing it, which is going to help them better manage their time and in turn, hopefully result in some higher completion rates because now people can schedule things out better. Once someone has completed something, the criteria will change. It will say done. It will get a check mark in front and it turns green. So we have 3 indicators there. What's important about this is whenever we are trying to indicate a change or emphasis on something, we never want to make color or bolding the sole source of that change, of indicating a change. So here we have 3 things: the check mark, done, and that this turns green, and actually looks just a little bit different for our learners. Things that are marked as done, once we click them as mark, it just tells us it's done. So that activity completion is visible, but it's not taking up a ton of space because it's in line with the title of the activity. I'm going to zoom out just a little. There we go. Okay, next up. When we're ready to add an activity resource that is down at the bottom of any section or topic, when our editing is on, we click. And what we're going to see here is that change in the activity chooser. So you're going to see that we have some pretty common colors in here, and there are very few colors now. So anything with pink is something that could be used for assessment, assignment, quizzes, things of that nature. Things that are blue are content. So this is where we're delivering that content. And this includes things like books and pages, but also lesson. Green is things where we're gathering feedback or gathering data. So chat, feedback, survey, questionnaire if you have it. And then orange is anything that's a collaborative activity. So this includes things like glossary and forum and wiki. So now we have an idea of where an activity fits in the spectrum of things we try to accomplish when we are rolling out this type of education or training. When we want to add something, everything is exactly as it was. We would just tick the item and begin to add it. I mentioned this block drawer over here being open by default today, which is making me a little crazy. But what we have is the blocks now, instead of being in a static, always open drawer, they are in a drawer that can be stowed. And when we close this, what happens is the screen is responsive and we have more focus on the content, so larger content area. But what we have when we have the blocks drawer open now is that the blocks drawer scrolls independently of the course. So if I'm using different blocks in here, maybe I'm using an HTML block, which has been renamed text, or I have the activities block or calendar. I can scroll down through to see the things I need to without rearranging things in my course. You do have access in here to the accessibility review block, which I will show you on a different site because it's not enabled on this one. But this is a free accessibility checker that is available on all sites from Moodle 3.11 and on. It is created by Brickfield Education Labs, and it runs a scan on your courses and then provides you with a report after that tells you where you might have an accessibility conflict. And then it tells you how to fix it and gives you an edit button so you can go directly to it and fix it. That is completely free. That's the free version, does all of that. There is a paid version of that as well that allows for some automated fixing of issues. But I will show you that accessibility review block in just a couple minutes. Other things to note here at the course level. I mentioned that the navigation drawer has changed, and you might notice along the top, I can get to home, dashboard, my courses, and my site admin option is now at the top. It used to be over here in this navigation drawer. This has been renamed the course index. And what we have here in the course index is a listing of every activity in this course. I'm going to turn my editing mode off for just a moment so we can look at a couple other things there. All right. So with editing mode off, what I'm seeing is the main topic title is in bold, and all of the activities that are housed in that topic are listed below. These can be collapsed if we would like them to be, or expanded. The other thing you'll notice is next to any activity title to the left is a circle. If the circle is open, that activity has not been completed by the user yet. If the circle is solid green, that means the user has completed that activity. So as a user comes in and out of a course now, it's very easy for them to see where they left off. They can actually just click this next activity right here, and the page will reload and take them directly to that activity. So now, much easier to come back in and work in courses over time without losing your spot. I am going to come back out to the main course and show you my favorite feature from the admin or teacher perspective. When I turn my editing on, I'd mentioned before that I can click and drag items here to rearrange them. I can do the same right here in the course index. So if I want to move this student orientation down below the online textbook, I can do so by clicking and dragging in the navigation in the course index now. Makes it much easier to reorder content if I'd like to move it around. That is a pretty nice function as far as I'm concerned. Other things to note here in the course. This course is using the topics format. And with the topics format, we can actually collapse the topics now on the screen. So if we are showing all topics on one page, like we are in this course, I can very easily collapse these things down. And as I do, it's much easier to navigate through the course and then focus on only the things that I need to focus on. Again, I can always click on a topic title here, and that will reorder things for me. And then I am able to also click on any one of the activities through the course index, and it will directly take me into that activity. Other things you'll note inside an activity, what you will see here is that we also see the criteria we have to meet in order to complete this activity. Now, if I've only done one of these things, only that criterion will click off as done. The other will still remain there waiting for me to complete it. Any questions so far?
No.
All right. So I mentioned that the site admin piece has moved. That's now up here at the top. And what you'll notice is no matter where you go on the site, you'll always have access to home, dashboard, my courses, and site admin at the top, right in the heading area. So they never move. Even if I scroll, they scroll with me. I do have these secondary headings here. And these are my typical site admin tree. Not too much changes here, except that you will have access to the new Moodle report builder. So down here under the report builder, you can custom build reports. And this may be something that helps to bridge that gap if IntelliBoard is out of reach. In here, what I can do is create new reports. We have a video series that we will share with you after this that walks you through exactly how you can create these reports. But basically, you click to create the new report, you give it a name, you pick the source. So are we looking at something from cohorts, courses, or is this user-based? And then we kind of continue on through. You can see here I have two reports built. One is called active and the other is called student performance. If I click on the title of that report, it is going to take me in here where I see the report editor. I can add or remove different columns depending on what exactly it is that I want to pull in. I can filter. I can add filters and conditions and things like that. And I can set the audience. So this is who is able to see it. I can set it up on a schedule as well, so it runs at a certain time, and then who's able to, what access there has been for this report. So I am coming back out here, and that is where my reports are. If I click on this tab, I can edit the content, I can view the report, edit the details. And if I click to view the report, what I'm going to get is this here. I pulled a report that's just showing my student progress. I am looking at the full name, the username, their email addresses, and when they had last had access to the site. I actually just pulled the login one, I think. I am able to download this report in a CSV or PDF or whatever I'd like to have it in. But this is what I'm able
Different
to
than
do
grade.
here. Hmm?
Is this different than a grade report?
So these reports, it can be. So the grader report in a course, um, what we actually call the grader report is really the grade book, but you can pull site-wide reports this way. So if you've been using let me just look over here and see if you've been using configurable reports. So you have some configurable reports in here where you're pulling things like enrollments by courses. This is just going to let you build these reports. Currently, we build these reports for you, but we will not have to keep building them. You'll be able to pull them. You can pull grades. You can pull course completions. You can pull something that has both like enrollment date and when they completed the course. So you can really customize these reports to pull the data that you need. You'll still have those course level reports like within one course, I can look at activity completion or I can look at course completion, but this will let you pull on a larger scale and make it more automated than having to go into every individual course to pull those things. So I think the reports might be able to bring in some of what you were looking at IntelliBoard for to be able to pull in some of that data that you're looking for. I'm going to pop back out and look in here again at this computer applications course. I did note that you use the quiz activity and there are some feature enhancements there. A couple of things here. I mentioned that on the heading bar, we keep these items. This is our secondary menu here. So it's like in the hierarchy, these are all the course level things. So the course is here, my course settings is here. Getting to who's enrolled in my course, participants, is now this tab here. And even when I'm in the participants page, I can still navigate over to the gradebook if I'd like to. And in here, I'm looking at the grader report where I can see everyone's grades down below and how they're performing. And then I have, these are just my course level reports. So this is where my course completion and activity reports at the course level are located. The more drop-down menu houses everything else that's related to course administration. So this includes like where I would set up badges or link competencies to the course. I can also get to my recycle bin here. So if you ever accidentally delete something from a course, it will go into the recycle bin and you have 7 days to fish it out of there. After 7 days, it'll be auto deleted. But if you ever accidentally delete things, have no fear. It is here in the recycle bin. The accessibility toolkit is also built right into every course here from the drop down as well. But I wanted to come over to the question bank, which is where we manage our questions for our quizzes. This has gotten a significant number of updates in here. So first thing that you're going to see is it automatically just looks nicer. My one thing, having worked with Moodle for a very, very long time, the layout of adding, of building a quiz and managing the question bank has always been honestly just atrocious. They both are getting improvements in 4.0 with additional improvements in 4.1, which was just released. But what we see here is our question title. I have my actions here where I can edit the question. I can look at the question history. I can preview it. But some of the big feature changes here are this status column. So we didn't have this before where we could designate a question as ready to be used or still in draft status. And we now can set questions to draft status. Draft status keeps them in the question bank, but means that we won't be able to add them to a quiz. So if we're still working on them or they're under review, we can set them to draft. We now have question versioning as well. So if I make a change to a question, I will see what version I'm looking at here. And when I build a quiz, I can choose to pull version 1, version 2, or always pull the newest version of a question. So if I am editing a question, it will now be saved as a new version of that question, new version number, and I can choose which one I want to use. I can leave comments on questions as well. So let's say this Excel quiz question is one that I'm going to put under review. I could be looking at it and I could see maybe there's some things here I don't love. I can add comments in here just by clicking to add comments and typing some information in there to be able to add a comment to that question. The comments will stay with the question. They're in there and they stick with it. So if another person comes in to look at that question, they can see the comments as well. Um,
So just like another admin would see the comments?
Yeah. So whoever we have given permission to see them. So it's going to be controlled by role permission. So an admin or someone who's a teacher and has access to this particular question bank could see those comments.
Okay.
A lot of the comments that go in are things like this question is under review or this one's outdated. We're going to replace it. But you can also set it into draft status so people aren't using it. And when I set my questions into draft, I usually make a comment there. So if I'm using a shared question bank between like different courses or with different teachers, they know why I've put it into draft status. Other things you're going to see in here are this needs checking column. So when I have quiz statistics, and I thought I had taken this quiz to have some in here, you will start to see the facility index and discriminative efficiency populate. In the question bank, those numbers are going to be over the lifetime of the question. When you're inside a quiz and you look at quiz stats, that's that point in time when people took that particular quiz. But now we are seeing the statistics related to questions over their historical use. So we can make better decisions about whether this is a valid and reliable question or not. If the question statistics fall outside the normal range for facility index and discriminative efficiency, you will get a flag here under needs checking that says may need review. If not, it will say, likely does not need review or it's okay. And if it needs review, it will be, there will be a red background on it. So you have a dual flag there. Also, when you look at a question in the question bank, usage will tell you how many quizzes a question has been used on. So I am looking at this, but I am going to grab chapter 1 and see if we have some stats for that one. Of course not. Never does what you want it to do when you want it to do. All right. So basically, though, what you'll see here in the usage is that I have used this question. And if I click on it, it will tell me exactly where I've used it. And it will tell me how many people have attempted that quiz over time. So if I have used this quiz year over year over year in a course, and maybe I renew that course each year, it will show me that, I have maybe 4 places, 4 times I've used it. And then I can see the total number of attempts. I will always see the activity name and the course name. And so those are some of the new features for quiz. And I bring this up because I see that you use quizzes, and my guess is that you're probably having people go through content. They take the quiz at the end that they have to probably pass, and then maybe they're awarded a certificate or something. This is going to help you make sure that those questions are on target for what they're supposed to be asking. It'll also let you know, like, if a question is performing really badly, you'll be able to see that better now. So you can go back and revisit it and like maybe you have a typo in it, or maybe you realize, oh, we actually didn't cover this content somewhere. So you now have more indicators that will help you to have a really nice overview of how things are performing, but also to help you make sure that you are covering all of the content and just seeing how people are performing on things as a whole. Are there questions that I can answer about quiz or question bank?
And how do you define the discriminative efficiency?
Yep. So the discriminative deficiency, there is information in here that kind of gives you how this is being defined. So it's an estimate of how well the question assesses students, with a higher value being better. So if it's got a high number, then we are evaluating those students well. A low number means we are really not able to discriminate between who does and doesn't know this question. So if
And that's
usually
just based on consistency of how correct people are answering the question, or?
Yeah, so what it does is it's kind of complicated. So what it does is it looks at the historical performance of the student in that quiz, and students who are performing low overall on the quiz, but all of a sudden they're getting this question right, and everyone's getting this question right. We're finding that it's not helping us to discriminate between students who did or didn't know the content. So it looks at a variety of psychometric values to create that. And there is, when you're in there and in the question bank, if you click on either one of them and you go to the more help piece here, it will bring you in to all of the specific details of how Moodle has coded this to throw up the flag. Um, so it will talk about the different variants and variables that are being brought in to give you that value. And then, if I remember correctly, yes. So it will also tell you what the value should be. So like what the industry standard or the statistically accepted values for that should be. So if it falls outside of that, that's why you might get a might need review indicator here in the question bank. So they drill pretty far down into the psychometrics of what these things mean here on that stats page. And when we follow up, I'll make sure you have a link directly to that page so you can kind of read where they're getting all of that. Any other questions? All right. So as I mentioned, Moodle 4.1 was just released at the very end of November. And in that, there will be enhancements to actual question types. So those will look nicer and function a little bit nicer. So there are continued improvements. Quiz and question bank were two humongous functional improvements that were broken up over the 4.0 and 4.1 release. When we upgrade people to 4, they will likely go to 4.1 since it is out now. And we are doing all of our testing against it. So that is likely where you would upgrade. So you would have some additional features in there as well as some, enhanced and improved question types. But as I mentioned, when we are here on the site now, navigation is quite a bit different. We can also get to the content bank. So if we're using H5P, that happens through this More tab as well. We can set up course completion and badges here, competencies. We have our filters enabled. I wouldn't worry too much about things like published as LTI tools or anything like that. One thing that has changed is this term course reuse. So previously, we would go up to our course admin area and we would have import, export, course copy, backup, and restore in there typically. Many sites don't have course copy. There's a bit of a conflict with that feature in certain cloud hosting infrastructure, but always you had import, export, backup, and restore, and they were separate links. Now they're all housed under the catch-all phrase of course reuse. And when I click that, I come into this area. Up in the upper left-hand corner, this is where I can choose if I'm importing, backing up, restoring, or resetting the course. Reset allows you to completely wipe out all user data and then continue to use this as a fresh course. I typically tell people not to use that very often because often we like to retain that data. Um, That's where everything is now. Import, backup, restore, all right here under this term. You'll notice though that we have this piece over here. So we have this drop down menu. You will see this in a variety of places. So even if I come into reports and I pick, course completion, what you're going to see is that I also have this drop down. This is one of the usability features that has improved in 4.0. When we drill down into something, we have these menus and they're a drop down and they're moved into the left directly in our line of vision. Previously, a lot of times we had to go to a cog in the upper right hand corner of something to get to the pieces of it. That no longer is true. Everything is right here in this drop down area. Coming back out to my course here, I just want to take a look at a couple of other things. So in terms of assignments, which you do use on your site, one of the things you will know here is I'm going to come into this. In the assignment, you're inside the assignment. You have that settings option here, advanced grading is here, and then the drop down menu for more. So you're starting to see consistency in the menus throughout. which is extremely helpful. If you've been using Moodle for a while, you know that the menus seem to be different in different things that we were doing. That has gone away. Menu consistency. I do want to draw your attention to a couple of things in here in assignment. The first is you'll notice that we have all of this content up here in the description area. Well, that was because previously we didn't have a separate area to put the instructions for the activity, but now we do. So we often like to put a little something in the description and have that display on the course page. But I think many of us shied away from doing that because you had to display everything that was in here. Now, whatever's in the description displays, and you can have separate activity instructions. When the user clicks into the activity, they will see the description at the top and then the separate instructions. This is going to make for a better experience for being able to display important information in the description and not have to have all of the instructions there. Other things, and this part may not apply to you for what you're doing. We can also set a time limit now on assignments. And basically, what we're doing here is saying that you, much like we can do with a quiz, you have 60 minutes to complete this assignment once you start it. This is often used in higher education and education settings when we want to give written midterms and tests and final exams. Not used quite as frequently in the industry that you're in, but it is there that we can set a time limit. If you're using assignment to be evaluative and you want to be able to prove that people spend a minimum amount of time on that assignment, then the time limit may come in handy because what will happen is when the time limit expires for someone, it doesn't auto submit or anything. They can still submit. It will just show it as having been submitted after the time limit. So if I want to prove that people spend a minimum of 45 minutes in my assignments, because that's how I'm clocking time in the course, I can use the time limit to help prove that and show, look at everyone in here actually spent more than 45 minutes on the assignment or a minimum of 45 minutes on the assignment. It just gives me another way to be able to track time. So even though time limit is often perceived as a way to set up these written exams, it can also be a way to help us better track time in a way that's more visual for us. Because if we log in, someone's taken more than time limit, we can see that's in red. It does not penalize them. It doesn't prevent them from submitting, but it is another way to kind of track time. Are there any questions I can answer about that? All right. Now, one of the things we talked a little bit about right before you got on the meeting, Elena, was um, how can we kind of create this workflow where we know about how much time someone's spending in in the course, and we're making sure that they are completing one thing before they move on to another. We can do that through a combination of restrict access and activity completion. And one thing that has happened in 4.0 is any activity that has a grade associated with it, you have the option to say that the participant or learner must receive a passing grade to achieve completion. So if I'm making them submit to an assignment now, previously I only had the option to make them submit, but now I can say they had to submit and they have to get a passing grade before they move on. This is true in forum, assignments, workshop, quiz, anything that has a grade, we now have this option for. When it comes to restricting access, when we look at the different features here, we can restrict access based on completion of a previous activity, um, something in someone's profile field. If we're using groups in a course, we can restrict access to things based off of groups. But we have all of these different ways to create a flow so that when someone comes into the course, we can ensure they're actually completing the activities on the front end before they do something like go take the quiz or the test in a course. And this can be very helpful for two reasons. One, it creates the flow that you need to happen to help people be more successful. But two, enabling those activity completion criterion mean that the learner will see them on the front page of the course and in the activities, but also see what they have and haven't completed along that course index. So it gives people a better handle all the way around on what they're doing in the courses. So I'm going to sort of summarize now, and then if there's anything I didn't hit on that you were wondering about, you can let me know. Big changes here are that we have that Site Home has been renamed Home, and it's its own tab. The dashboard, where we often had to add that course, the course overview block, gets a change, and it is now the timeline block and calendar. And we have this My Courses tab. Your learners can land on any one of these pages when they come in. So if our goal is to make sure that when someone logs in, they're immediately at a place to one-click access their courses, we can make that happen by having them land on the My Courses tab. All of their courses are right here, and it's just one click to get into them. Once in a course, you will have noticed that we have quite a few changes in here. The block drawer becomes something that is stowed over on the side. Typically, it's closed by default. Again, we're just playing with some CSS on this site to see what happens if we leave it open all the time by default. The navigation drawer is renamed the course index. You will not see this anymore when you are at site home or on the dashboard because your access to things like site administration have moved to the top. You can still have some other menu items at the top. So if you have other sites or things you want people to link out to, you can absolutely have those up top. Within courses, we now have the secondary menu that appears like a heading bar. We can scroll through the course and it doesn't follow us, but no matter what we're in, we will still see this. So if I'm in the course settings, I will still see this bar appear right here so I can jump between different items. I have everything else associated with course management is now here in this drop down. And if I am in one of these areas, I'm just going to click into competencies and I click down on that more button, there is a check mark to let me know where I'm actually located within these items. So if I wasn't sure what I'd clicked on, don't know where I am or how to get out, this is an indicator for me. But I have a quick access to everything. No more having to open the navigation drawer or go into course settings separately. It's all here, very easily accessed through the course. Also, when we are inside any given area, we now have drop-down menus for everything. And this is true also inside activities for different things. You will see that all of the drop downs have moved to the left. They're a drop down menu instead of a cog on the right now. So, left hand drop down menu directly in your line of vision. Much easier for people to find where to do things. Also, once we're inside an activity, we still have that secondary administration bar here where we can get into the settings for the activity, set up our grading, in a forum, for example, we can manage subscriptions, and we have reports that are related to any given activity inside them. Anything else we need will be here in the more drop down option here. And what we will see inside any activity are filters, permissions, backup, restore, and export. Those are always available when we're inside an activity. Overall, the navigation for any throughout the whole site and within courses gets cleaned up, and we have a primary focus on content. So because we can store those drawers and the screen resizes, we really are focused on content here, which will make it much easier for people to see what's happening in the course. Also improves accessibility, particularly for people who are neurodivergent, ADD, ADHD, anxiety, and other sometimes visual processing considerations. The course is clean and it doesn't look as cluttered with all of the things there all the time. This will make it much easier for people to navigate and stay focused and know what is a priority. So that is basically the 4.0 UX changes and upgrades and feature enhancements, kind of in a nutshell. Are there questions that you have or things that I didn't answer for you?
So what does this mean for our existing courses?
So your existing courses, everything will still be on the site exactly as it looks right now. In exactly as it's set up now. When you upgrade, the course will look like this, but it will have all of your same content, the history, all of your completions, everything like that. So the overall look and feel of the course changes, but nothing else changes.
Okay. All right. Just so I can communicate with our course designer to let them
Mhm.
know to expect that. Okay.
Sure.
Did you have a date in mind? Or Amanda, I don't know if you all talked about that.
Um, so, I know that OpenLMS still uses Moodle, but OpenLMS, you all have your own product that goes with this, right?
Um, so sort of.
Okay.
That's a bit of a comp. So you are on core Moodle. That is what this is. This is just Moodle. OpenLMS really is the company name as a whole. The product you're on is the same one that you were on when you were under the eThink brand. So
Yeah.
you are on strictly core Moodle. We do develop additional plugins, such as the programs plugin that we release open source, so those can be used on any Moodle site. We have a grand total of 4 different platforms that people could be on. This, which is just core Moodle. We have something called OpenLMS Work, which is core Moodle with additional features built onto it for people outside of higher ed, things like multi-tenancy, taxonomies and hierarchies, and things like that. So if you're really needing to like have an org structure set up, we have that product. Then we have what's called OpenLMS EDU, which is really a SaaS, so software as a solution product. That one is more proprietary and it has more changes to core code, still based on Moodle, but it does have changes to core code. You are not on that one. So the pieces, anything that applies to that does not apply to you. You are on a 100% core Moodle site.
Okay. Just based on what you know about our offerings and how we're structured, do you think that core Moodle is still the best option for us?
I think it is for you. I don't see that you have a need for multi-tenancy, which is basically, I describe it as like, it's like mini sites within the site. Our director describes it as an apartment building. We all live in one apartment building, but each apartment is different. And that's what multi-tenancy is. That would be like if you were interfacing with other agencies and they needed to have a place that was branded just for them inside your Moodle. That would be multi-tenancy. Other than that, the big things in there are things like certifications, putting your org chart and hierarchy in. So it really, work is really geared toward like larger corporations where we need to rely on the organizational structure for reporting and things. So managers can log in and see what their people have completed. If that is you and you feel like those are the features you need, we can absolutely set up a work demo for you so you can see what the features are. But if you don't have a strong need for those things, I would continue with core Moodle, that which you're on right now. There is always the option later on if you start to have a change and your changes kind of align better with work, we could always move you at a later date because it's just a core to core migration. So that's basically it. The work product is on Moodle 3.11 and will stay there through the spring, and then they will move to 4.0 in the spring.
Okay, so you're not really at this point doing too many upgrades to 4.0.
We haven't scheduled any out. So work is different because the versioning is what the versioning is. So you don't it's not like where you could hang out on an old version for a really long time. It's just a little bit different in that sense. We have people queued up to move to what we call 4.x, which will probably be 4.1 starting in the spring. So around like February, March, people are starting to move. The majority of people right now who have scheduled their upgrade, who are on the same product you're on, who've scheduled an upgrade, has scheduled for summer, but that's because they're mostly higher ed and they're going to wait until the year ends and then they'll upgrade. But we definitely are seeing for people outside of higher ed that they are looking to schedule beginning in like February and on.
Okay. And since we would be staying with core Moodle, there wouldn't be an upgrade fee. Is that correct?
Nope, that's correct. So you have upgrades already built into your contract. It's 1 or 2 upgrades per year. So typically, though, most people are going to do 1 a year. Moodle's release schedule has changed a little over the last year and a half, where they're going a longer period of time between major releases. We do point upgrades a little bit differently now. So like if you were on, so what's out right now is 4.0.5. And so when like 4.0.9 comes out, those little point upgrades can be done overnight now, like a plugin installation. So we typically, if you ask for a new plugin to be installed, we might just bump you up at the same time to the newest point release for something. But as far as your upgrades go, you never pay for those. You schedule them, we schedule them. I think we run Sunday nights through Thursday nights. We have the ability to do them overnight now, which is new. We didn't used to have that ability. We used to have to require downtime during the day, but we now can start things overnight because we have a global team now. So there's a lot less disruption in terms of upgrades, but those are always included for you. Upgrades, no charge for that.
Okay. Well, I think what might be a good next step for us, Elena, is to, because Amy, we plan on hiring an instructional designer in 2023.
Okay.
So maybe just for us to have an internal discussion about, if it makes sense to wait until that person is on board to do the upgrade,
Yeah.
or move forward beforehand.
Yep, absolutely. Take your time, have that discussion. In our Open LMS Academy, we offer a course called What's New in 4.0. It runs every single month. It's a 3-week facilitated course. And when people take that course, they can request a sandbox course on that site. So they get a course that's in 4.0 to get in there, play around. Those sandbox courses stay active for quite some time after people finish the course. But if you all want to take that, or if when you hire your instructional designer, they want to take that, we can absolutely, they can sign up right through Open LMS Academy. That's a free course that we have there. We also have Intro to Site Administration. So if you ever need like a refresher course on doing the administrative pieces on your site, that's also a free course, and that runs quarterly. I'll send you all this information when we do our follow-up to this and send you the link to this recording. We'll make sure that we include all that information there as well. And then
Awesome.
prior to setting up your upgrade, what will happen is you'll say, "Hey, we want to upgrade on such and such a date." We like to know at least a month in advance, because what we're going to do is create a dev site for you where we take the data on your current site and we put it on this other site that we stand up for you, and we upgrade it to whatever version you're going to, so you can see exactly what your site and your content will look like when you upgrade.
Perfect. And in the meantime, what's the best way to set up another call with Bryant, to make sure that we can kind of help with his needs for the North American basic trapping course that I was talking about earlier?
Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a link to my Calendly, and you'll be able to schedule a time right on there with me. And then I'm happy to meet with you to talk about that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
And
You're welcome. Go ahead,
Amanda,
Michelle.
sorry, I was double muted. So I will let the IntelliBoard team know that IntelliBoard is probably a little too much for your needs right now. Should I tell them the thing about IntelliCart, or do you still want to, mull that one over? Do you want to schedule a full demo of it? What are you thinking there?
So we could, I'm glad you brought that up. We could also discuss that internally, because it would be more of sort of what Project Wild does, which Elena also oversees, that would use that product. So yeah, we'll discuss that internally as well, and then can get back with you on that.
And let me know if you want just like
Great.
a light tour of that. We use IntelliCart for Open LMS Academy. So if you go there and you register for a course, you're registering through IntelliCart, but we often like show people like how we have it set up and like what the reporting and things look like. And then if you want a really detailed demo, we can definitely make that happen with IntelliBoard.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much.
All right,
You're welcome.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
You too.